There's one big downside about having a 3D printer in the same space that you work. And no, it's not the sound because you can just put headphones for it. It's the smell and the fumes. Currently, when I sit in my office working 12 hours a day, by the end of the day around like 7-ish p.m., I actually feel a little rash in my throat. I'm talking in my office all day, working on my computer, and I'm sitting 3 feet away from where 2 of my printers are printing 24/7. And by the end of the day, I can tell the days that I have been printing all day versus the day I haven't. Now, generally, it's said that if you're printing PLA or PETG, these filaments don't actually cause any issues, even if you're in the same environment. But I don't think so. I believe them because I get a scratchy throat every time I have a whole day of printing. Even though I have a fan right behind my chair and the window open in front of me, and I was assuming that if it would just blow air from right behind me, go straight out, I should get fresh air maybe, but then I guess if it's just circulating, I get the air blown straight into me, which has all the fumes. It only happens on the days that I am printing and doesn't on the days that I haven't. Now, I wanted to print ASA, and ASA and ABS filaments are usually the ones where you do want some sort of filtration. So I initially bought an air purifier. So when I would print the filament, even if it was really cold outside and I did not want to open my window, it would still print, and any fumes that would come out, the air purifier would just get them. But the issue was the air purifier doesn't actually get all those little particles it usually gets if you put it in the kitchen and you just cooked food. The particles are much larger, so it understands like, oh, there are some particles in the air, I should kick off. But with 3D printing filaments, usually it does not pick up on those. They're so fine that it doesn't really get the smell or the actual particles filtered. And I found that out after I bought the air purifier. So right now it sits in the kitchen, works great, but not great for a 3D printing setup. So second thing I tried was when I had one printer, I printed these things that can attach to the back of the printer and the other can go in the sliding door of my window. So anytime it prints, it can exhaust all of the air out. But when I was printing with ASA, it was freezing outside. And because the vent is always open, all the cold air would seep right into the printer. And when it was not printing, it would get really, really cold, like freezing temperatures inside of the printer. So I'm sure that's not good for the printer. And then when you're printing ASA, you need a really high chamber temperature. Let's say, I think around like 60 degrees Celsius. But because it was so cold outside, and the printer would never get hotter than like 22 degrees Celsius. And it tried. It would stay on there for like 25 minutes trying to get the temperature right, and it would just never get there. So that was another downside of having a vent that goes straight out into the open. So now I'm on to my third solution, and I hope this one works. And I'll walk you through exactly what I looked for, how I build it on a more cheap and cost-effective way. So you can buy this advanced filtration system that Prusa made for the Core One specifically, and it has this filter that is activated carbon and HEPA filter. So that should filter out the smell and the particles for the most part, so you can be in the same environment and you should be fine. But then there's one issue. It is super expensive. It costs about $85-ish, and I think you need to replace the filter every 600 hours of printing. For me, that's about 2 months. Now I have 2 printers, and buying it for that, it would cost me about $165 before taxes, and with taxes and Prusa's shipping, it would cost about $200 to add it to 2 printers. Now, as I was looking into it, I was like, let me find a cheaper alternative to this. It may be a much bigger filter that I can buy from Amazon that is also activated carbon and HEPA filter, and both the printers blow into the same air duct where it's then connected to a filter, filters the air out, and then it can be in the room. But I actually could not find a really great and reasonable filter that could do that. Rather, what I stumbled upon is on Printables, there's this person who put this design where you can print the outer casing where the fan and the filter will stay in, and this person linked to this website, which I actually just ordered from, and I ordered 2 of these, where all you can order is the filter with activated carbon and HEPA filter, and it comes with the fan that you need that connects to your printer for power. It's essentially what Prusa has, but for way less money. So I printed the case, and it costed probably around like $2, $3 at max for each, and then the fan and the air filter were a total of $32, $34-ish each. So if you add the cost up, it costed less than $40 to get one of them, and the total cost ended up being like $80-ish for making the whole thing, which is half the price of what you can get from Prusa. Now, Prusa does sell it with a metal casing instead of a 3D printed casing that we're doing here, and I'm sure that may have some benefits, but the air that comes out of the printer never goes to a temperature where PETG or whatever melts, so I don't see a problem with it. But of course, the Prusa one is much higher quality, has the same metal outer casing that the printer is, so if the looks and aesthetic matter to you a lot more, and maybe the quality of the air filter may be better, I'm not sure. They are contracting to a third-party company, but this filter seems like has the same exact specifications, same dimensions, same HEPA filter and and activated carbon, so it should perform the same exact thing. I ordered it last night and mine already says that it's been shipped. So once I get it, I will let you know what the results are. Okay, since I shot that last part, I have already received and installed everything on my printer, and I've been using it for about 2 weeks, and here's all of my impressions. Printing was pretty straightforward. It took me 2 different prints to print the whole thing because you gotta get the outer enclosure and that separation plate. One thing to note is that the enclosure, there are these slit gaps on one side, and you wanna make sure that the supports are not so strong that it's very hard to take out, because I did not increase the Z height between the actual print and the support, and they were stuck together that it was very hard for me to remove them. So when you print yours, make sure you increase the gap between the support and the actual print. It took me a few minutes to take out all those supports that are generated for that air vent that the fan is going to be expelling out of, and it was actually very fun for me to just sit there for a few minutes and taking the calipers and just pressing on those air vents, and those things would just pop right out. And now when I was installing my first one, I made a little mistake of not taking the nylon rivets out of the printer before installing this. So when I put the enclosure on the printer, it left this little gap up top because the nylon rivet was creating those 3-ish millimeter gap between the printed enclosure and the printer. So I had to redo the whole thing. So once you mount the enclosure, the only thing that really remains is connecting the cable to your printer. So your printer can recognize that this is the filtration system that is attached to the printer, and it knows when to kick it off when there's a special material that you're printing with, or the chamber temperature may be really high, and it just expels that air. And I'll link the documentation from Prusa that shows exactly how to do this yourself. The first one took me a little longer because I had to figure out all of the exact details on how to get it done. But once I did the first one, which took me about like an hour and a half, it only took me like 45 minutes to do the second one. Okay, now let's talk about the results. How has it been since I installed these 2 weeks ago? And have I had the same problems that I was having before? Well, the good news is that the smell issue that I had of smelling these filaments that were printing for hours on end while I was working in my office has literally disappeared. I have not had the smell issue once. And I've had these printers printing the matte PLA that I buy, and it has a really strong smell. It's like a sweet-ish smell. I mean, I used to have those, but since I've been printing with these filtration fans on, I have not smelled anything. I mean, of course, my office does still get warm because the printers are running and hot air is blowing out throughout the day. So my office gets a little hot, but I mean, that's the issue for the AC to just be turned on. But as for the smell, it has really disappeared. Now, the one thing that I haven't tested, and I don't think I can get to, is the air quality. I'm sure there are a lot of other videos where you can find the air quality test between a filtration system versus not. I can link some down below, and I've watched a bunch of those. I believe that they work. I'm not really questioning that. My biggest issue was sitting on my desk all day long next to my printers and having that smell and having like a scratchy throat, and I've not had any of that. I hope you enjoyed, you learned something from it, and if you've had a different solution to the same problem or an adjacent problem, I would love to know how you solved it for yourself. And until next time, thank you for watching.